Hello, it's Alexia here. Now, I want to talk through what you can expect from a clearance session. So what do I mean by a clearance session? Well, you sitting down to clear some head trash. Specifically using head trash clearance, which is the technique that I share in my book, Clear Your Head Trash. This is a potent technique that you can use for getting rid of things like phobias, triggers, conflicts, self-sabotage, traumas, have I said that already? I don't know. But yeah, anything that is basically stuff that takes up space in your head. So what can you expect from doing a clearance session? Now, again, these sessions could be sessions that you sit down and do on yourself, so DIY sessions. They could be sessions that you're attending with a head trash coach, or they could be sessions that you're attending like group sessions where we often run live group sessions as well. So it doesn't really matter what format the session is, because you're still experiencing head trash clearance to get rid of your head trash. So what can you expect? Well, there's a number of different responses that you might find that come up for you. And you may experience lots of these, or you may experience none of them. And there isn't a right or wrong. But what I want to do here really is to sort of let you know what might come up for you, what might happen, so that you can be prepared. But I don't want you to think, oh, that didn't happen to me. Did it work? Did it not work? Did I do it wrong? This isn't about that. This is really just to help you to kind of prepare yourself. And then to sort of start learning what your own responses are. So you can start telling whether this was a good clearance for you, whether you really let something go, whether maybe you haven't kind of got there and you need to carry on. Because all these responses are very useful signals for you to read into and interpret. So so let me just talk through what some of those are. Now, the one thing that happens to me every time I do a clearance is yawning. Now, I call this my hippo yawn, because it really feels like my lower jaw is just dislocating from my head and just dropping. So, if I was to yawn normally, it'd be like that, right? Whereas when I do a clearance, it's like, it's really, it just feels like I can't open my mouth wide enough. And it really does feel like a release. And sometimes I'm feeling like the yawn is coming, and I'm going, and when a yawn doesn't quite come, and it's like, oh, it's coming, it's coming, and then I get a really, really big yawn. So that's one sign that you're doing a clear, that stuff is shifting for you. Another thing that could happen for you is that you start getting lots and lots of tears coming out of your eyes. Now, those might be crying tears where you're actually sobbing and it feels a little bit emotionally painful. So the experience that you know is crying, but also it could just be like your eyes are just streaming just on their own, and that you're not crying per se. You're just kind of having lots and lots of water spilling out of your eyes, basically. I get that all the time as well. So obviously the yawning makes my eyes cry. And then when I start yawning, then my nose fills full of snot, and then my nose starts running. So basically I just become this huge, snotty, wet mess when I'm doing my clearances. So I always have loads of tissues to hand. And whenever I finish doing clearances, there's always a mountain of tissues by my side when I finished. So I would always urge you to have tissues handy when you're doing some head trash clearance. Now, other things that you might notice are some tingling around your body. So you might notice, because what we're doing here, this is energy clearance. We're clearing out toxic emotional energy. So and energy kind of moves in certain ways around the body, at least that's been my experience. So sometimes you might find that the energy wants to start in your belly area and rise. So throughout a clearance, you might start with the belly gurgling a little bit. It might seem like you think, oh, have I had a dodgy curry for lunch? Or was that fish okay? Those kind of gurgling sounds that you think, and then it might rise, and then it might start hitting the center near your sternum and on all this area. And you might start feeling like a little bit of pressure, maybe some heartburn, maybe, something going on there. And then as you continue going through the clearance process, then you might find that you'll start burping and things are rising and you really want to burp. I've had some clients that just burp all through their clearance session. So whereas yawn, they burp. That's their thing, is burping. So burping and this kind of moving of the energy, this releasing of this energy coming through could be that. Now, we know that a lot of stress is held by the gut, and that when we have things like IBS, that is a symptom of stress. So when it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? That when we're clearing out these things that stress us, that causes us fear and anxiety, that where we might be holding that stress, i.e. down here, is just coming out and releasing, right? So you find that this energy just wants to come up. Sometimes you want to take deep breaths. So that's, I think, what's yawning is part of that, because as part of a yawn, you end up sort of doing lots of big inhales and exhales. So again, this is bringing in fresh oxygen and cleansing and clearing your system and re-energizing you and giving you the things that you need to really start processing and purging some of these toxic energies. You might get tingles and things in random locations. So I've had clients say to me, oh, my elbow started tingling, or my knee is tingling, or I'm getting a weird, just weird things happening on their body. And then it kind of comes and it goes. Sometimes the tingles or the stabbing pains or whatever that sensation is, however strong or light that sensation is, sometimes it's where they might have an ongoing thing, right? So they might say, I've always had a bit of a dodgy elbow. It's always, I can't play tennis because of the elbow, or whatever it is they've got. And then it's the elbow that is now kicking off in the session. And then after the session, they realize that the elbow doesn't work and they can move it fine. And actually, all the trapped emotion that they had around that was going on for them was trapped in the elbow and was preventing good movement of the elbow. And now we've released it. And so as it releases, it feels a bit tingly and it feels like there's something going on. So you might have those kind of experiences too. You might have lots of visuals and movies coming off in your mind. I've had some clients that are incredibly visual and come up with these incredible dreamland scenarios, these sci-fi scenarios that are kind of fantastical, and there's almost a story being woven that's very related to what we're clearing, and this situation or the movie kind of evolves and moves on, and they get a new snapshot or a new scene comes to them with each step of the clearance. So you might have lots of very powerful visuals coming to you. Similarly, you might have sounds, voices, your dad's voice, your mum's voice, people that are important to you, your own voice coming in and kind of spouting some of the stuff that you've that maybe you've been spouting all your life, or stuff that you've wrestled with, whatever it is. You might get it auditorily. We are all different, so you may not get the sound thing or the visual thing. It might be all physical for you, or it might be none of these things. You could get a headache. So some people find they get tension headaches, they find they get a migraine, and so maybe it hits them here, maybe they get a band. So this is why I always encourage people to have a glass of water to hand when they're doing a clearance session, because maybe you are just getting dehydrated. Your body is dumping a load of toxic emotional energy, and it's using your system to kind of start flushing that through, and it's run out of water and it's letting you know. So always have some water to hand. Maybe there is some tension being released. So, that could also be what's going on for you. What else is there that I think you might be going through? You might suddenly get very, very tired when you're going through a clearance. So if this is a big clearance for you, then this is usually the sign that it is a big clearance. You start feeling really tired and really low on energy, and you kind of just want to oh, can I just lie down now, please? I have had some people, while I've been working with them, on Zoom or Skype or wherever, have literally just fallen asleep during the session. And I've just had to kind of close Zoom down and wait for them to get in touch later, like 5 hours later when they wake up. So you could feel very, very tired. And again, this is part of the toxic emotional dumping of energy, where your body wants to go into healing mode. And it heals best when it's sleeping. So it's kind of almost like grasping at that healing state where it can just focus on the healing, and without you being around to kind of take up its energy, basically, because obviously being conscious and up and about requires energy, and it needs that energy to do the processing and the healing that will come as a result of clearing out all this toxic stuff out your system. So you could be very, very tired. What else is there that I want to mention? I think that's everything. tingles, yeah, yawns, burps. I mean, you know, it's a fun process. I like having all of those things happening because I know that stuff is happening, right? But if nothing happens, sometimes I do clearances and nothing happens, and that's fine too. And that doesn't mean that nothing's been going on, because what we're doing here is we're clearing the energy out of your energy system. And sometimes there is no sort of nothing tangible that you're experiencing that says that energy is being cleared. So if you have nothing happen, then that's okay too. I think what tends to be the case is that you will probably notice maybe some tiredness or something afterwards. Generally, people tend to find that even though they might feel tired or exhausted after doing clearance, that they feel lighter. They feel like they've like a relief on some level. You know, a clearance session can be, it can be quite emotional. It can be, you know, all sorts of stuff can come up. Unexpected sometimes, you know, old memories, old experiences that you thought you'd forgotten, things can come up, and sometimes it can get emotional, and that's nothing to be scared of. You know, if you do find that you start crying during a session, then allow that to come through, because this is stuff that just needs to come through you. This is the processing. So when you are finding that it gets emotional, then that's great, because that means you've hit the jugular, you've hit the thing that's causing you all this pain in your current life. So stay with it, right? Stay with it until you've bled that part dry. So whenever I hit a point in my clearances where I start crying, I'm like, oh, this is great, because it means I've uncovered the stone where all my shit's hiding, basically. So I stay there until I've cleared everything out. So whichever point you are in that clearance, then stay with that place until the crying subsides, because it will. It's like a well of emotion that needs to come out. And once it's come out, that's it. It's gone. It really has gone. But if you stop the clearance at that point because you're uncomfortable with the crying, and that makes you feel uneasy, then you're going to limit the clearance results and the impact from doing the work. The best thing to do is just stay with the crying and to allow it to just come through you, and then eventually it will calm and pass. And then it won't be there anymore. And that shows that you've really, you know, you've cleared something really, really good. So I sort of invite those experiences, because I know that means that I've done a really good clearance. And I much prefer that stuff is out and no longer in me than festering inside of me, because all of that toxic emotional energy is inside of us. It's just, we're carrying it around all the time, and it takes a lot of emotional energy just carrying it. You think about all this crap that we're carrying in our mind, in our heart, in our system. It weighs heavy. You know, we just want to let this stuff go. And if that means spending half an hour crying in your bed, clearing something, bring it on, I say, bring it on, because that means you are going to feel so much better afterwards. Yeah, so anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and that you are embracing the clearance experience, because it really is something that, you know, the more of these you get under your belt, the better you start feeling. And once you start noticing how much better you're feeling, you kind of want to go back for more, because you're like, oh my God, this is really working for me. I feel so much better. This is great. What else can I clear? At least that's been what my experience has been. And a lot of my clients are like that. They just kind of like, they want to do more, because it just makes such a difference to how they feel and what's happening in their lives. So I hope that for you too. So I hope this has been a useful video for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.